here from Drummond Education again, and today I wanted to share with you one of my favourite style of workouts for one of my favourite bits of equipment, which is the kettlebells. Kettlebells are great because huge amount of functionality. They are portable, although they are a bit heavy for portability, but we can get a really good cardiovascular workout whilst also working on that MSE, muscular strength and endurance component. So the instructions for this workout are up on the website, so by all means you can just follow along, print the program off and use it with your clients or yourself. It's just basically a series of circuits. I've put 5 circuits on the workout. You can put as many as you want on there, but what we do is we integrate a swing with a muscular strength endurance exercise followed by another swing followed by another MSE exercise. I'm choosing to use a double arm swing followed by the strength exercise, single arm swing followed by the strength exercise, but you can mix it up as you choose. I find this way it's really great because you've got that constant cardiovascular component with just a little bit of recovery period when you're doing the MSE component. Like I said, I put it in circuits, so we'll do the first series of 4 exercises as a circuit, have a little rest for a minute, go through the next set, have a little rest for a minute, go through the next circuit, and so on. I've chosen on my instructions to say we're going to do each circuit in turn, but if you wanted to, you could repeat the same circuit 2 or 3 times before moving on to the next one, 2 or 3 times. It's really highly adaptable, and you can change the MSE exercises you put in there. If you kind of know what you're doing and you think about it, you can really utilize the peripheral heart action training method by the way that you integrate those MSE exercises as well. But maybe that's a conversation for another day. So in order for us to be able to do this workout, I would like to introduce to you some of the main coaching techniques that we really need to try and reinforce with ourselves and our clients relative to the swing, both the double arm swing and the single arm swing. And then once we've done that, I'll start to introduce the individual exercises that we're going to intersperse between those swings. I think that's probably going to take a bit of time, so we're going to do this over 2 videos. So we'll get those first 2 swings done today, maybe with a couple of the exercises, and then in the subsequent video, we'll look at some of those other exercises. Some of them a little bit more tricky, may need a little bit more looking at. There's lots of videos out there on YouTube. There are some differences relative to the swing, particularly in terms of the Russian method and what's been adopted as the American method. We're going to look at the Russian kettlebell swing, which has slightly less of a squatting movement and really relies on getting that hinge through the hip. So it's really important to note that when we're talking about a kettlebell swing, what we're trying to do is actually really maximize the use of the posterior chain. We want to be driving through those glutes, really strong drive through the glutes, going into full hip extension, not quite working on triple extension. We don't want to come up onto our toes. In fact, that is going to lead us off balance. So we've got to keep that weight centered through the heels, and you should never feel that you're having to lift the kettle. So in essence, we're going to hip hinge at the hip, slight flexion in the knee, so almost the position we get into as if we were going to do a Romanian deadlift. And from this position here, as I'm swinging back, what I really want to be able to do is kind of catch my forearms on my thighs and then drive the hands off my hips. So key things that we need to look at here is maintaining that neutral spine. We don't want to get into this flex spine position, really dangerous, potentially, and certainly not great technique, and you're not going to feel happy about your back the following day. So we want to get that hinge on and avoid bending too far at the knees. It's not a squat or a deadlift in this instance. So we're not doing a squat or a deadlift. What we want to do is get that hip hinge, try to minimize the amount of bend at the knee, and really drive off the hips in order to force our arms up to a neutral position. Now, we're just going to let our arms come up where they feel comfortable. It's going to be around about shoulder height, dependent on the weight of the kettlebell that you're using. And we've seen, and it's certainly nothing wrong with it, I've seen lots of people going up into this full kettlebell swing above the head. That's a different exercise for a different reason. We just want to get that momentum going where we're just hinging and driving and pushing that kettlebell away from us. So my advice would be to start a little bit light until you get the hang of it and know what you're doing. I'm just going to start with this kettlebell here. Not going to go through the dynamics of the kettlebell, but it's a lump of metal with a handle on it. So when we pick the kettlebell up, we need to think about that neutral spine. So as we do, we just let the kettlebell swing back, and then I'm driving off my hips into this position. I'm really pushing through the hips, keeping my forearms nice and relaxed, hook grip around the handle, pushing myself through, and you can see, getting that swing. I'm not using any effort through my arms to lift the bell. It's just swinging into position as I swing. When I finish, I'm just going to let it come back, catch it on my legs, and deadlift or squat it down into position and return. Just show you that from the front. So, kind of stepping over the kettlebell, coming into position, into that squat position, nice neutral spine, drop back, push off the hips, and really make sure that I'm driving through those hips and getting that full hip extension whilst minimizing the amount of flexion at the knee. And catch and return. Next, we're going to look at the single arm swing. So, single arm swing, no prizes for guessing, we're doing it with a single arm. Obviously, the main health and safety concerns here are letting go of the kettlebell and whacking you up over the head. So, in this instance, there's two ways that we can do this. So one is to maintain the swing through the single arm. Now I like to keep my hand here so that I'm not looking for balance. You see a lot of rodeo riders out there, woohoo, keeping their balance through here. If you need to put your hand out for balance, nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I like to keep my hand here, stay a little bit disciplined and work on getting that stabilization through my body. The alternative is to come up into position, and then we're going to swap hands in midair and come back. Obviously this one carries slightly more risk, and this is where you're likely to let it go. So my advice would be to practice single arm on one arm, and then we can start to practice that change in the middle. So similar thing, dropping back, driving off my hip still, driving through, keeping nice and soft through the forearm and the elbow, and driving through. Then show you from a different angle. And then we get that swing in the middle where we're catching, driving, catching, and you can even put a little turn in the air. And you see that kettlebell's almost weightless at the top of the movement, just before it starts to come back down, and that's where we're going to create that interchange. Showing you that from the front, dropping back, driving through, swapping, and then alternate, swapping through. Awesome. So, that's the two-hand and the single-hand kettlebell swing in a rather quick fashion. Hopefully you can adopt these practices. Just remember, ensure you're getting that drive from the glutes, full hip extension, avoiding going onto your toes and losing that balance, and maintaining that neutral spine, particularly as we're dropping down into this catch position. So probably key to being able to progress with the kettlebells is to master the clean. So we're going to look at the clean, and we're going to look at it as a clean and a power clean. Just to clear up sort of any confusion with the names, when we're doing Olympic lifting, we have a full clean, which is where we'll catch and drop down really nice and deep into that front squat position. Got a slightly dodgy hip, so I can't squat too low. A power clean is a similar movement, but we catch it with only a half squat, so we don't go quite so deep. And when we do a power clean with the kettlebell, we're going to clean from the floor and catch it in that sort of half squat racked position. But the difference with the kettlebells and with the Olympic bar is that when we do a clean with the kettlebells, we're going to think about doing that as a clean from the swing. So we're going to look at power clean and a clean with a swing, and we'll look at a power snatch and a swing snatch as well. So, starting with the clean, it's a little bit tricky to master off the bat, but actually once you get it, it just feels really natural and it's not that tricky. The key to being able to perform the clean or power clean is what you do with this elbow and the wrist. So we keep the wrist nice and light to enable us to be able to swing into position whilst abducting and externally rotating our shoulder. So I'll just show you how that looks with the kettlebell, not too quickly. So keep a nice neutral spine as per all good squat techniques, etc. So as I lift, I tuck in close and allow the kettlebell to stay nice and tight to the body, so it's almost coming up in a straight line, and as it comes up, I just roll my arm underneath it. So rather than trying to move the kettlebell around, I move my arm underneath it rather than moving the kettlebell. And then dropping down, it's the reverse, we twist out. So I lift up, twist under, catch, there's no necessity to put your fingers out, but you can give yourself a pat, well done, and drop down. So catch, drop, catch, and we're now in this racked position. You can see that racked position means I'm nicely resting on my shoulder, elbows in tight, hands in tight to my chin. From here I could be doing some lunges, some overhead lunges, windmills, all sorts of different exercises. We can look at those a little later. But getting that catch into position and racking that kettlebell, absolutely key for the clean. So I'm going to show you that from the side, and then we'll look at doing the clean with the swing. So from the side, again, nice strong squat mechanics, dropping down into those hips, grabbing the kettlebell, and as we drive up, tucking in underneath and racking that kettlebell into position. Dropping down, racking into position. Then when I want to get a swing on, same thing, swing back, racking into position, racking into position, and then I can put that into a sequence and follow on with some additional exercises. So that's the kettlebell clean and power clean. Okay, so hopefully we've got that clean nailed now. So we're going to look at the snatch. Now, it's fair to say that the snatch is probably not a beginner's favourite exercise, because when you don't perform this correctly, the kettlebell swings around, smacks you on the wrist, and does actually hurt, particularly after a good few repetitions. The good news is, with good technique, you don't get any wrist bash. With poor technique, you definitely do. So there's a definite incentive to get this exercise correct. The problem is that as we reach towards the apex, the kettlebell has all that centrifugal force, and then as you get to the top, it swings around and ends up bashing you on the back of the wrist. I'll demonstrate poor technique and take one for the team. So just watch that kettlebell as I'm going to decelerate slightly, but you're going to see it come around and bash me. So, boom, and just boom, hitting my wrist at the top of the movement there. Not very pleasant. Now, the good news is that we can stop that by almost pushing ourselves through the handle of the kettlebell and forcing the kettlebell against our wrist at just the right moment at the top of the apex, and there's no bash at all. So the way that we do that is just by slightly, as we come towards the top of the movement, we're just going to depress the shoulder girdle slightly, flex the elbow a tiny bit, and as we reach to the top of the movement, extend the elbow and elevate the shoulder girdle, and we just push through at that last moment, which allows the kettle to swing through. So it looks like this: come through, drop underneath and push through, and we're just going to catch that kettle on the top of the movement. So we'll look at that from a power snatch position first, which means I'm going to be coming from the floor and keeping a little bit tighter into the body. So from here, again, nice good mechanics in the back. So up, push through, and then down. Push through, down, push through, and one more, and through. Now, it takes a bit of confidence, and those that are starting out, grip overly tight on the handle to try and slow down that movement, but it's not going to stop the wrist bash. The only way to do it is to push through, not to try to decelerate the kettlebell. It will still hit you. Show you that just from the front one time, or a couple of times. So we're just catching from the floor, good mechanics, up, push through, down, push through, and down. Now, this movement lends itself really well to the swing as well. So when we've got the swing going, we're even got more of that centrifugal force, but as we come to the top, we push through, and again, it's going to be great on the wrist. So drop through, catch, push through, and no pain, no wrist bash at all. Show you that from the front. That's the snatch, mastered. Great, so now we know how to snatch into position, we're going to look at an exercise called the windmill. The windmill is a little bit more of a core exercise, and but it also has huge amounts in shoulder stability and does slightly rely upon us having very flexible hamstrings. But I'm going to show you a little workaround in case your client or yourself doesn't have that level of flexibility in the hamstrings. So what I'm going to do in this position, and by all means when you do this, don't start heavy, okay? Go quite light to begin with. So we're just going to snatch into position, and we've got the kettlebell above our shoulder, and this is where we want it to stay the entire time. Now what I'm going to do, just take a sort of 1.5 times shoulder width apart and slightly externally rotate this, this hip. Now, if you're looking for stability, you can run the inside of the hand down the leg. If you feel that you can do it without, then you can take it away. So what I'm going to do, and this is a really, really important teaching technique, keep my eye on the kettlebell, slowly come away from the kettlebell, drop my fingers to the floor, and return. As I come down, I'm going to internally rotate my arm, like so, and then go back into neutral. That's going to allow me to roll underneath the kettlebell as I drop in underneath. So I'll show you on the other side, and what I'm going to do is do a little workaround. So when I've got that external rotation through the hip, and I'm trying to come down, but I'm just a little bit too tight through the hamstrings, then I can just put a little bend into that knee, and it'll allow me to reach the position that I need to there. So let's just go ahead, snatch into position, externally rotate. In this instance, I'm just going to bend, drop down, touch the floor, and come back up. Again, come down, bend, run my hand down the inside, come up. All the time looking at the kettlebell. So that's our windmill, and let's just look at that from the side. So, snatch into position, externally rotate that hand, drop down, keep my eye on the kettlebell, touch the floor, and come back into position. Cool. And then from that windmill, we actually have another exercise called windmill lunge, although we don't actually put it in that windmill position. Now, this is a really good exercise because it creates a whole load of rotation and a lot of lateral stability is required even though we're moving in the sagittal plane. So we've got frontal, sagittal and transverse plane all working together on this exercise. Really good functional exercise, great for stability. If you get it wrong, I've not seen this happen, but there's a definite potential to take the kneecap off. So again, start light. So we're just going to clean into position, and then I'm going to take my hand around here, and as I lunge forwards, I'm going to drop down, catch in this position, push through the heel, and come back into position here. So I'll show you that one more time. Drop in, swing around, push through and come back. And you really need to time that push and the swing at the same time. Drop down, and back we come. Swapping arms. And then I'm going to call on the other side. We'll do it from the side. So drop down, swing through, and back. Drop down, swing through, back. And one more time. Swing through, and back. That's our windmill lunge. One other exercise we have on the program there is a push press. So we're going to snatch into, we're going to clean into position, like so. And then all I'm going to do for the push press is just put a little bit of drop, not far, just want this quite a nice shallow position. And from here, just use the arms to allow, and the legs rather, to push through and to drive that kettlebell up off my shoulder. So, up, up. So, one more time from the side. That's our push press. Now we've got that push press down with double arm push press. You can do double arm, all these exercises, the snatches, the cleans, we can do all of these double arm. I've only got one kettlebell at the moment, so I'm just doing single arm. Lastly, we're going to look at the Turkish Get Up. Awesome exercise, and just prep ourselves up for that one. Okay guys, so last exercise we're going to look at is the Turkish Get Up. Probably one of the most tricky exercises due to the number of stages we need to complete in order to complete the exercise. And whilst it's fair to say that if you didn't have great technique, you'd probably get away with a lighter weight, when we start to go heavy with the weight, it's really, really essential that you nail this technique. So we want to get it right and sequence it correctly from the beginning. There are some slight variations in terms of how high we bridge and how fast we stick the leg back underneath, etc. So this is pretty close to the Russian kettlebell standard, but not exactly. But I find this one really works well for me. So without further ado, let's go ahead, break this exercise down. We'll do a dry run first. So effectively, the Turkish Get Up is about coming from lying to standing whilst keeping the kettlebell above your head at all times. So the first stage we're going to do here is to bring the heel up towards the bum, but not so close that I shut down the gap, which I'll explain in just a moment. This leg I'm going to take out just to the side a little bit because it's going to help to give me a little bit more balance. Then what I'm going to do with my opposite arm is actually throw it down quite hard to, well, don't hurt yourself, but I've got that. So I'm bracing through the back, and then I'm going to push through my heel onto the elbow. So this is sort of stage one. Then from here, I want to come from the elbow up onto the hand, work myself into the hand, then using the heel here and kind of abducting my shoulder blade away, driving up, I come into this bridge position with the kettlebell above me. Now, if I've got my heel too close to my bum in the first place, then I'm going to find it difficult to get my leg through this gap. So I want to ensure that I've left enough space so from this position I can slide that leg through, and from here I'm going to push myself up into this kneeling position here. Then I'm going to adjust my feet around so that I'm parallel to the direction I want to be standing in. Then I'm going to drive off the heel on my front leg and the toes on my back leg and push through into standing. Then coming down, it will just simply be the reverse. So we're going to drop this knee back. From here, then I'm just going to take my hand down onto that position, and then from here, I'm kind of forming that slight bridge just to get this leg through from that kneeling position through to here. Just drop down onto that hip, down onto the elbow, and then I'm back into position, and from here I can repeat the process or swap hands and go from the other side. And let's do a live run. So taking the kettlebell above us, just slightly abducting this leg, bringing the heel in towards the bum and driving that arm down to brace and give me the support. Then I'm going to push through the heel here, up onto that elbow, from the elbow onto the hand. Now driving through the heel and pushing that shoulder girdle away from me, I want to come into that nice strong bridge position. Then from here, driving that knee in underneath, getting those toes onto the floor and bringing myself up into this kneeling position. Then I'm going to adjust my feet, and from here, driving through the heel and the toes, come up into that standing position. And you'll notice the whole time I'm looking at the kettlebell above me because it really helps with the shoulder stability. Just dropping down, dropping my hand down, pushing through the heel and the arm, just to bring that leg in underneath, dropping back down onto that hip, onto the elbow, onto my back, and finish. And from here, repeat or change sides. So I'm going to show you that from the side just so we can get a perspective of what's moving. So, my head on the mat. So, the weight's above us, slightly abducted through the leg, bring the heel in, nice and close, throw that arm down, drive through and come up onto this elbow, then up onto the hands. Then from here, finding that bridge position, dropping through with my leg into the lunge position, adjust the foot backwards, and then driving through the toes and the heel, come up into standing. Then we're just going to reverse this, dropping down onto the knee, hand down, slide that leg through, down onto the hip, down onto the elbow, back, and return. Then finally, we'll go from the other side, just to show you the other perspective. So, up above me, leg slightly abducted, heel in towards the bum, drive that arm down, up onto the elbow, up onto the hand, form that bridge, bring the knee through, up into kneeling, adjust my position, drive up, and then the reverse to come down, knee, hand, hip, elbow, back, leg down, and down we go. So, that's all the exercises in our little kettlebell series. It's a great workout template. You can get a really good few exercises out of this, or sessions rather. just changing around the order of the circuits, whether or not you go through each circuit one by one or complete each circuit 2 or 3 times before moving on to the next, just can change up the whole feel of the workout. But the nice thing between integrating the swing and the MSE components is that we're really making the most of the kettlebell, getting that cardiovascular component as well as the MSE component. Great for overall general conditioning, fat loss, and you can use it for hypertrophy or for muscular endurance, depending on what your goals are. So have fun and stay safe. Take care, guys.